Good evening. Welcome to the week 2 data pack for 2021 season 2. This week we're at Lime Rock. Um, Interesting because since the last data pack was recorded, there's been an update. Um, Strangely for iRacing to do, all of week 13 without bothering to change the tyre and then change it 2 days into week number 1. But I'm not complaining because I think there's some quite good modifications to the tyre. There's basically a couple of changes to make it a little bit less overreactive, I would say, to high temperatures. So got to be a little bit careful. I mean, I've always been saying the same thing really, which is it was already um, you need to be careful of using too much throttle, too much steering together, and being too aggressive. I think if you've seen a lot of the coaching data packs, then you will have picked that up. So the key things that make the difference this time though is that the tyre is now heating up much faster. So the biggest thing for me is that it will change your qualifying strategy. Now, Lime Rock probably not so much because it's such a short lap. You're going to still want to do a little bit of tyre warming, I would have thought. But for example, last week at Sebring or even at Long Beach, to be honest, where previously I'd have been absolutely working the tyres to try and get as much heat in as possible on the outlaps, now I would say actually just come out the pits and do a fast outlap and it'll probably be pretty much there really. Um, if you do too much, you'll find that you're going to run out of grip on the end of the second lap. So yeah, there's a good balance to be struck there with your qualifying pace now. In general, the tyres again heat up faster, which is good during the race stints, and are less less prone to overheating throughout the stint, I would say. So they tend to just pick up less and maintain less heat over the run, whereas previously, kind of the intention was really to just keep the temps low as possible all the way through. It's still the case. The tyres will still get too hot by the end of the stint, but it's less. I think there's more opportunity for the tyres to recover if you drive a bit more carefully, is what I would say. Again, it doesn't make too much difference at Lime Rock because we're putting a lot of effort on that front left tyre, and so you'll see that in the setup. Basically, we're still running minimum front cambers this week, but I think um, particularly, I mean, we've just come out of the winter season really, or what I would call the winter season, where usually the track temps are very low, and we've been able to get away with even with the last stocks a fair bit of 3+ degrees of negative camber on the front. I think now as we come to the hotter temps, we're going to be more likely to see less, a little bit more negative camber used this time round than perhaps we would have been without the updates. I guess what I'm trying to say. Generally in 2020 season 3 and 4, almost all the docks were 2.5 mil front camber, which is minimum. And that was just to manage the front tyre temp. So I feel like on some tracks where there's a little bit more time for the tyres to recover in between corners, or where the track temps will generally be not so high, places like the Nürburgring later in the season, you might well find that I'm a bit more, a bit less conservative with the cambers and aiming to work the tyres a little bit harder in general from that. And yeah, for the really long stints, I guess, I still don't think it's changed that much. So I think for the endurance races, you're still going to, anything where you're running sort of more than half an hour stints, or more than 35-degree track temp, probably you're still going to want to be running min front cambers. But yeah, at least there's a little bit more ability for the tyre to deal with it, and I think it does make the car a little bit more satisfying to drive over the long stints. So that's definitely a plus from my perspective. It has also changed the setups a little bit, so I'm very much usually running max rear rake, min front ride height, max rear ride height. I've actually changed that strategy now, so I have, yeah, we're running minimum front and rear ride height now. Couple of reasons for that. It seems to be better over the bumps, and I think that it's a little bit what am I trying to say? I think the car prefers now to have slightly, what, I'm not really sure how to describe it. A bit, it just, you need to keep the car a little bit more under control, I guess. It's having the rear quite so loose. It was perhaps costing me a little bit of time on corner entry. So I think this setup, I'm tending to do a little, I've got one click more toe out on the rear, but I've got less ride height on the rear, so the center of gravity height of the car is lower overall, which I think helps the cornering ability, and then I get that rotation on entry back by having another click of toe out on the rear. So the other thing that's changed as well is the anti-roll bars are now corrected. So there's what in reality would be the stiffest setting is now the stiffest setting in iRacing as well. So there's a few tweaks around the setup really. Yeah, interesting to get your feedback. I feel quite confident with this setup actually. I spent quite a long time working this week on it at Lime Rock. So yeah, let's give it a go and see how it works really, and interested to kind of get your feedback. One final thing to mention, you've probably already seen it. RaceSpot are now covering the Friday night primetime slot of the IMSA MPC. So yeah, 8:15 GMT. Come along. I will definitely be there each week. So yeah, broadcasted race on racespot.tv. Really worthwhile getting involved because that's probably going to be the best opportunity for a good race, even if you're not in the top split for the week. So yeah, hopefully see you there. Okay, then let's get into the track guide. Then I'll stop waffling on. So let's have a look. So obviously quite a short track guide this week, of course, being it's Lime Rock, but let's not worry too much. I probably should have mentioned the track temp's reasonably low. However, like I said, because basically every corner is a right-hander, that front left tire really gets worked hard. So I've still kept the minimum cambers strategy for now, and we'll see how that plays out. So again, the intention, maybe this setup may not be the absolute quickest over a one-lap stint, but across the course of the race, I was definitely experiencing a fair bit of drop-off still with any higher camber settings. So it's very much about keeping the car consistent and fast all the way to the end of the race. So then coming into turn one, so you're of course using the brake markers over on the left hand side here. I'm going to be braking just before the 3, and then I'm basically through turn 1 going to be trying to keep the car no wider than the middle of the track through the sort of middle part of the apex, and a nice late apex here on into the final corner part of the corner. Usual story, slow in, fast out. So braking just at the 3, turning in. I'm not using any curb on the entry here, just cruising. You can see at this point I'm ending up at about the middle of the track, but I am going to use a lot of curb on the exit, and I'm going to try and hit the very end of this curb. And there's a little bit of a bump here with the grass, which you don't want to hit. So just coming off with the right-hand tyres over the end of this little flat piece of curb, and then around that little bump as we come through on the power nice and early. So I'm just across the middle part of the circuit again on the entry. I'm not coming all the way out to the right hand side. And again, we want a nice early turn in here, and it's just all about keeping the car tight to the inside all the way through the corner. Again, the tightest part of that corner is going to be on the exits because you want to be able to get smoothly onto the throttle. So a little bit of curb here, and then rather than going for exit speed out of there, you're wanting to keep the car fully to the left so that you can get a better exit for the right-hander which is coming up. So you can see that this line, I'm hugging the inside, and I'm just carrying that steering on and trying to focus on getting the left-hand side of the car right back to this white line before entry to the right-hander. So entering to the right, no curb on the inside again, late entry, all about getting as smooth and as fast as possible exit through here. Watch out for the curb on the outside. You can run that, but if you hit the grass, you'll find yourself out in this Armco, so you've got to be very careful. So I've got an interesting line here. I'm not following this white line. I'm actually deliberately driving across the grass and aiming for this piece of curb. I'm just going to nibble that curb, hit the turn in as I go, and then head for the apex on the inside. So just across that curb on the left-hand side. As I hit it, that's where the turn in and the braking comes in. Then I'm along this curb, you've got to be really careful. You can actually bottom out the middle of the car if you hit too much curb through here. So I'm just going to take it nice and careful. I just want the right-hand side right up to the inside edge, but no further, so that I avoid hitting that bump. And then, yeah, you can see I'm already on the throttle before I've even got to the apex here. So pushing the car, carrying as much speed as possible. And that really is the secret. It's all about carrying as much speed as possible around Lime Rock. Up over the hill. Just watch out for the 1X on the left-hand side. Again, you can be on the throttle very early here. So this is where I just start picking up a tiny bit of throttle, carrying it all the way through the corner. And now just bolting the car to the left-hand side of the track. Left-hand wheels want to be right on top of that white line. And again, it's another late entry here. You really don't want to hit this curb on the inside because it really jolts the car and bumps you offline. So nice and late entry through there, but you'll notice that, I'm barely ever off the throttle. I'm in fact on the throttle before I've even got to the corner really. So yeah, avoid that curb, picking up the throttle as early as you can. Try to avoid the slowdown on the left. Sorry, not the slowdown, the off track on the left. Using all of this curb, and one thing you've got to be careful of is right here, this part of the circuit where this drain cover is, and then this bit of grass. There's a bit of a jump there, really. And if you hit that, there's potential that it's going to damage the front of the car or the side of the car and give you some speed loss. So yeah, really important. Keep an eye on that. Make sure that you're keeping your left-hand side tyres just on top of the white line and no further, and you'll make sure that you avoid that. And you're going to be set up here for the drop. So basically, I'm just hitting the steering before I hit the drop here. And what's, the key thing about this corner really is that as the car bottoms out on the bottom of the hill, all that extra load goes into the front tyres and they bite. So just start your turning before you get to the drop, and you'll see here we hit the ground, the car really bites and turns in. I'm taking just a whisper of curb on the inside here. So we come again, bang, there's the bite, little bit of curb on the inside, picking up the throttle nice and early. Again, just before I've even got to the apex, I'm on the throttle, use all the curb on the outside, and short and sweet, under 1 minute lap of Lime Rock. Yeah, not sure what else to say really. I think I had a fair old bit of a waffle on as we went through that lap. But yeah, I guess it's going to be an interesting race here. GT4s will likely come and lap you. In fact, you can see some damage on the left-hand side of the car there, which I undoubtedly would have got through that bump. I don't think there's anywhere else on the circuit where you'll catch it. So yeah, perhaps this lap could have been even faster without that. But yeah, I would have thought in the vast majority of cases the leading GT4s should be able to come around and lap you. There's a big speed differential here with the GT4s to TCRs. So one thing to be careful of course, keep an eye out for them. Apart from that, yeah, as long as you've got the lead, I think it's very, very difficult to overtake here as well. So just focus on getting a really nice quali lap in. That's going to be really, really important. And yeah, keep it smooth, keep the tyres under you, and be patient, wait for the end of the race, and you should find that you've got a very competitive car come the last 5 to 10 minutes of the race. Okay, well, thanks very much. That's another week's data pack in the bag. I can't even remember what track. I think we're Sonoma, aren't we, next week? Yeah, that should be Barcelona. Maybe it's Barcelona. Either way, should be interesting. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you there. As usual, any questions on the Discord, feel free to come and drop us a message. More than happy to help out. Thanks very much. See you then.